You know what really grinds my gears about Christians is that a lot of things that they say and when they question you is projections. It's like Christians be like the main ones that want to question everybody else, but nobody be questioning them about what they doing and what they got going on. Like, for example, you are a spiritual person and you came from a family of Christians, but when you became an adult, you decided to become spiritual and you have never looked back. And then you come around your family that are Christians, they still practice that religion, and then they know that you are spiritual, so they may notice you having an ankh tattoo. They may notice wearing crystals or something like that. Whatever the case is, they're going to start asking you questions. And then a lot of times what they'll do is a lot of their questions are judgments disguised as curiosity. Because pretty much what they'll do is they'll ask you a question. You'll respond from your belief. But then what they'll do is their response is always like them kind of finding a way to prove that what you're doing is wrong, and what they do is right because they have the Bible to back it up. Because in the Bible. But you know what I realize about Christians? Is they be talking about, the only way that we have to go to God is through Jesus. But they don't even know how to hear the voice of God. And the thing is, a lot of times, I read tarot, right? And I have family members that know about the fact that I read tarot. So I had a family member a relative that asked me, like, well, did you, just asking about, how do you know if you're hearing the right voice, of if you're hearing God's voice or if you're hearing the devil's voice? How do you actually know that you're hearing the right voice? Pretty much thinking like, are you connecting with demons or are you connecting with God? Like, that's pretty much what they're asking, and I'll tell them, I'm like, well, you know what? Like, when I connect with the higher power. I connect with spirit. I don't summon demons when I'm reading tarot. It's just a straight channel. I'm like, I don't necessarily need the tarot cards or the oracle cards. I am gifted. I can channel without it, but this is a tool that helps. And I'll tell them, I'm like, well, you know what? Before I even started going into tarot so heavily like that, I learned to hear the voice of God myself without any of that. I am so close to God and have can hear God's voice so well that I can do it on command, where I could just sit here and be like, okay, God, I messed up. What am I supposed to do? And I hear God's voice clearly. How? Because when you become spiritual, you basically go into a season in hermit mode where it's just you and God, and God speaks to you and touches your soul in a way when you know it's God speaking to you. And ever since then, your life changes. You have that deeper connection with God. But these Christians don't have a deep connection with the Most High. They have a deep connection with who they think God is. And it's such a flaw. It's like they don't have that deep connection. Like, they just robot. Christians sometimes don't even be knowing what the fuck they be talking about. And it's like, if you ever, as a spiritual person, if you ever had a conversation with a Christian, a heavy religious Christian, listen carefully to them. Like listen in between the lines of what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? Because what you'll hear them talking about is pretty much, they only repeat what they've heard or what they have been taught, but they don't do any type of inference to actually dive deeper. You know what I'm saying? Like, spiritual people study the Bible. Christians just read the Bible. Don't let that go over your head, baby, because listen, reading the Bible is one thing, studying the Bible is another. You could read a page, like, think about when you were in school. You can read a page, and did you comprehend anything that you just read? No, because you probably weren't paying that much attention, or maybe that you weren't actively listening and comprehending to read it. You're just reading words on a page. That's what they do. They just read the scripture as it is, and they think, well, the scripture said this, so this is a rule, and it has to be this way. But they don't do no type of deep inference. Spiritual people study the Bible, and they study the Bible by studying the self, by studying their own life. How is this scripture resonating or aligning with my life? Because the study is you studying the Bible in your own individual manner is how you can better understand the Bible. Because if you go off of what a pastor done told you, they're going by what they think. And that's what a lot of Christians do. They just rely on the pastor that's the problem. Thank you. Christians want to be spoon fed every fucking thing when spiritual people go out there and go find the shit for themselves. It's as if spiritual people are the queens and kings. They go out there and run the kingdom and the queendom and do all this stuff on their own. Well, the Christians are the princesses and princesses. Just expect everything to just be given to them. They want you to spoon feed the information to them. And then everything that they hear the pastor say, oh yeah, that's right. That's why it's a lot of Christians out here that's trying to compare. I'm digressing a little bit, but they try to compare homosexuality to pedophilia and try to make it seem like they're intertwined when it's comparing apples to oranges, because that's exactly what these pastors be telling these Christians. So and that's why Christians are so homophobic, because they be thinking like, well, I mean, because they think that people that are bisexual or homosexual, they think that that's some type of abomination because something happened to you as a child, or you did something to a child, you are close to being a pedophile. And it's like, fuck no, bro. Because you have pedophiles that are heterosexual, so how the fuck does that make sense? They don't even think that could be a flawed thing. They just listen to what they say, bro. No inference.